Hello, I'm Jeff Tate, the church planter of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Benton County, Arkansas. In the next 25 minutes, I'll tell you about the first 5.5 years of UUBC's existence. Ever since moving to Rogers in 1993, my wife Ellen and I had talked about our desire for a UU fellowship in Benton County. For we had found that our UU fellowships in Houston, Texas, gave us a congregational experience that we liked without dogmatic supernaturalism that we didn't like. After moving to Rogers, we eventually became members of UU Fayetteville, but the drive felt too long, and it was hard to participate in any UU activities during the week. Still, we attended regularly, and I served on the UU Fayetteville Board of Directors for 3 years, but it never quite felt like home. My compulsion to start UU Benton County was one of the strangest experiences of my life, perhaps the strangest. The urge began about 2 years before our first UUBC meeting, and it grew stronger mostly against my wishes. I really did not have time to take on the project of starting a UU fellowship. I had a full-time medical practice, and I was in the midst of working on a master's degree in philosophy, my first love intellectually. And I had absolutely no experience in starting any type of church or fellowship. But I literally couldn't stop myself. I knew that I needed, and I hoped that others in Benton County needed, a fellowship to enjoy a congregational experience without supernaturalism, a community based on compassion and on the goal of developing the best about ourselves, of living up to our highest ideals. I had recently completed studies at the Humanist Institute in New York, and I had many years of studies in psychology and philosophy, all of which had given me an identity as a religious humanist. So I felt that I could at least intellectually start and catalyze the formation of a UU fellowship. The biggest question was whether anyone else in Benton County would be interested. In the fall of 2007, I created a homemade UUB website, but I didn't advertise it. Then for the next year, I successfully talked myself out of starting UUBC. Throughout the fall of 2008, though, Ellen and I discussed the pros and cons of starting UUBC. The pros were all potential and in the future. The cons were real and immediate, mostly obligations of time and effort. Nevertheless, we, mostly I, reluctantly talked ourselves into proceeding. So, in January 2009, I read an announcement at the monthly board meeting of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Fayetteville. Here, in part, is that announcement. Quote, "For a long time, among the members of UUFF, there has been a conversation about the need for a UU fellowship in Benton County, a UUBC. For the past 2 or 3 years, I have felt the urge to begin the process of creating UUBC. Recently, my circumstances have become right to make such an effort. Susan Smith, our UU Administrative District Executive, has given this effort her support. This coming Sunday, the first meeting of UUBC will be held. I have reason to hope that a small crowd will attend. I will serve as lay leader. There will be a service and an invitation to become involved in UUBC. I hope this will be the first meeting of what will become a full-service UU church." End quote. I had read a few books about church planting. The book said that a good way to start is to meet just one Sunday morning each month to avoid church planter burnout. So that's what we did. Before our first meeting, I placed a 1-inch ad in the newspaper announcing a talk on Christianity, Science, and Reason, to be presented Sunday, January the 25th, 2009 at 10:30 a.m., and announcing our website. We met in the waiting room of my clinic. About 12 individuals attended, and I was thrilled. I collected email addresses to add to a Yahoo distribution list. At the next month, February 2009, I presented a talk on religious humanism and collected more email addresses to add to the UUBC Yahoo group. Thereafter, UUBC met one Sunday a month except for summers over the next 3 years. The first 2 years we met in my clinic waiting room, setting up folding chairs until attendance began to exceed the seating capacity of the space. I remember nervously waiting at my office on Sunday mornings wondering whether anyone at all would show up. I think our smallest attendance was about 9. And here I want to acknowledge someone who, from nearly the beginning and unasked, showed up regularly on Saturdays to help set up my waiting room for our Sunday meetings, Harris McKee. UUBC has been blessed with several individuals who have steadfastly supported its development and I will mention a few later. However, Harris McKee is in a class by himself. In any way that he could help, he has helped. Whatever he could do, he has done. Practically every UUBC meeting for the past 5.5 years, he has come early to set things up and stayed late to take things down. And he has served on our Board of Advisors for the past 2.5 years. Harris, thank you for 5 years of unfailing support and of stepping forward when needed. And Mary McKee has been at his side helping in every way. Thank you, Mary, for all that you do and have done. For the first 3 years, I led all of the UUBC monthly meetings and I delivered all of the homilies. The topics I talked about included developmental levels of religious belief, moral evolution and development, Hinduism, would Jesus celebrate Christmas, Easter for modern thinking people, why be moral, Buddhism, thank whom or what at Thanksgiving, the real meanings of Christmas, rational hope, our good news about the evolution of compassion in human history, why are you here, about the development of beauty, truth, and goodness in individuals, religion, problem or solution, about the constructive aspects of traditional religions, what UU is all about, living an authentic life, is faith still relevant, faith in the progress of goodness, the meaning of life, which is one's personal development of beauty, truth, and goodness. In addition to the homily, each of our monthly meetings included a few minutes of Zen-style meditation, and starting in September of 2009, we acquired UU hymnals and added singing to our meetings. We began to pass the plate to collect an offering in September 2009, and from the first, our collection has always been adequate to cover our expenses. The second year of our meetings, as we began to get crowded in my waiting room, we tried to hold 2 Sunday morning meetings, the first at 9:30 a.m., but there were never more than 6 or 7 in attendance at the early service, so after several attempts, we stopped that. Our first 3 years, when we met just once a month, we also held a Saturday evening social event monthly, usually at my home. These were potluck affairs and gave us a chance to get to know one another. We usually had 10 to 15 in attendance. From January 2009 through May 2010, we had no Sunday school program for children, so our meetings were essentially adult-only. In September 2010, we hired Rachel Myers as a one-room Sunday school teacher, and we held children's Sunday school in an empty room at my office building. Rachel led our Sunday school program for the next 3 years, with an assistant after the first year, until Rachel went to law school in Atlanta in the summer of 2013. Rachel did a wonderful job starting our Sunday school program, and our current teachers continue that fine effort, still working with very limited space and materials. In March 2011, Reverend Susan Smith, the UU Southwestern District Executive, met at my office with representatives of UUBC to advise us in how to proceed with development further. At that meeting were, besides me, Jane Barfield, Carol Bobeck, Michelle Harvey, and Tony Miltich, all of whom have continued to give regularly of their time, talents, and financial support. Reverend Smith's main advice was not to have a rigid idea of what UUBC should become, to let its people guide its development, and to provide for the 3 main reasons that people go to churches: for community, for spiritual growth, and to implement social service ideals. I had learned about the World Cafe method of brainstorming during my time as a student at the Humanist Institute, and I was eager to give it a try in creating a direction for UUBC's future. So in January 2011, at one of those Saturday evening socials at my home, we held our first UUBC World Cafe with about 20 in attendance. The key ideas from our first World Cafe were to meet more than just one Sunday morning each month, to create more small group opportunities such as book discussion groups and dinner groups and adult Sunday school classes, to increase our profile in Benton County via social service projects, and to have a separate Sunday school class for preteens and teens. One of the ideas from that first World Cafe was to create a lunch bunch, going out to eat together, right after our Sunday meetings. This has consistently been in place for the past 4 years, and Mary and Harris McKee have made sure that this happens. We've held a UUBC World Cafe every year since then. Our current Sunday meeting schedule and our rotating meeting formats are direct outgrowths from our first two World Cafes. Because we needed more space, in September 2011 we began meeting, still just monthly, in the ballroom of the Holiday Inn across I-49 from here, also renting a room for Sunday school. Our UUBC supplies were stored in the back of my Ford Explorer and taken out and been put back every month. That fall we hired our first keyboardist, David Aravitt, to provide our music. Although he had to leave after a few months, we could tell immediately that having more music and having professional musicians make a big improvement in our meetings and in our attendance. By now, several individuals were regularly helping to set up for our Sunday meetings and helping with social activities, but there was no formal leadership of UUBC other than me until September of 2011, 20 months after our first Sunday meeting. At that time, I asked several highly involved individuals to serve on a board of advisors for UUBC. These first members of our board were Dave Barfield, Harris McKee, Carol Bobeck, Tony Miltich, Michelle Harvey, Julie Jensen, and Kay Wiederhaft. Since January 2012, the board has met most months and has provided the month-to-month guidance for UUBC. The current members of our board, besides me, are Harris McKee, Hannah Roberts, Michelle Harvey, Julie Jensen, Melissa Jordan, David Sipple, Lauren Galley, and Jim Jensen, who serves as our UUBC treasurer. At our monthly 90-minute board meetings, we discuss matters of operating UUBC, such as providing money for Sunday school teachers and supplies and for musicians. Sometimes we discuss upcoming Sunday programs, such as who will speak and who will provide the music. And the board members regularly do much of the legwork to make our meetings happen. The shift from once-a-month Sunday meetings to meeting every Sunday is a point where many new churches fail because the increased workload is often overwhelming. So in the spring of 2012, when we decided to meet every Sunday starting that September, the board knew that we needed lots of help to put on a service every week. So we asked for the creation of Sunday support teams, one support team for each Sunday of the month, to handle the arrangements for that particular Sunday format. In July 2012, we had a big organizational meeting of all the support team volunteers at my office building. At that meeting, each support team was charged with creating a plan for one Sunday each month. Members of those support teams who remain actively involved include Tony Miltich, Richard Bland, Barbara Lingle, Mary McKee, Jocelyn Narilla, Kathy Rogers, Brian Sartain, Jane Barfield, Melissa Jordan, Dave Barfield, and Fran Levin. These individuals and more get the credit for making our current Sunday schedule and formats a reality. Without them, it could not have happened. Since then, our Sunday meeting support teams have continued to carry out their responsibility and the legwork of making our Sunday meetings happen, and of making our websites and our marketing a reality. It's a lot of mental and physical work, and they get it done, rain or shine, and they don't get nearly enough thanks and recognition. As we moved from one meeting per month to meeting every Sunday, it was a good time for me to step down as managing church planter and preacher. I very much enjoy giving homilies, but it takes about 20 hours to compose a good homily, and other obligations were demanding my time. So at our March 2012 Sunday meeting, 3 years after starting UUBC, I announced that I was stepping down from my position as church planter, but that I would continue to be an active UU participant and a board member for as long as needed. Since we were going to meet every Sunday and we hoped grow in attendance, we needed a meeting place that was inexpensive enough, large enough, and conveniently located. Tony Miltich was instrumental in arranging for us to meet at the Rogers Elks Lodge. Thank you, Tony. Here, we have plenty of room for adults, but our most acute limitation is space for multiple Sunday school classes. Here we have just one room. Our 2013 World Cafe brainstorming session identified 3 key needs: our own dedicated meeting space with 24/7 access, having a UU minister of our own, and defining UUBC membership criteria so we could become a full member congregation of the National UU Association. Task forces were assigned to investigate those 3 issues. We learned that a minister would cost at least $80,000 a year, that our own space at a convenient location would cost at least $2,000 per month, and we do now have membership criteria which were announced this past winter 2014. Full voting members will be those who attend more than 25% of our Sunday meetings and who make and fulfill a financial pledge to UUBC and who attend educational sessions about UU. We plan to have our first pledge drive this fall. At our March 2014 World Cafe, the primary needs that were identified are more intellectually stimulating content on Sunday mornings, a stronger sense of UUBC community among ourselves, better marketing of UUBC to the people of Benton County, more meaningful ritual elements on Sunday mornings, such as starting and closing services with the same song or recitation, maybe singing the children away to Sunday school with a short song, celebrations of seasonal holidays, and again, finding a way to have our own dedicated meeting space. We now have a task force actively creating plans of how best to fill these needs, and their report will be ready this month, June 2014. We will then need task forces to implement those plans over the next few months. So that's our 5-year history so far. We have developed from being an idea owned by one person to a community owned by us all. At a Sunday meeting in 2012, I called for a development from audience to ownership. A score of individuals have vigorously answered that call and have created UUBC as we know it today. As the church planter, I'm very gratified to see us develop from seed to sprout to sapling. With our current human and financial resources, we have, somewhat to my surprise, held it together to hold weekly meetings for the past 2 years, and I like what we do here. But our average Sunday attendance has not grown for 2 years now. For the past 2 years of holding weekly meetings, we've averaged 40-odd adults and children in attendance each Sunday. So what of our future? Can we develop from a sapling into a beautiful, sheltering, nurturing tree with various places for all kinds of activities and interest? Well, here is the UUBC vision statement that I used to include on the back of every Sunday bulletin the first 2 or 3 years. Quote, imagine UUBC within the next several years. Weekly Sunday services. Full-time professional UU minister carefully selected for education, speaking abilities, and for inspiring leadership toward being the best that we can become. Choir presenting uplifting music and songs every week. Sunday school for children and teens teaching the UU7 principles and teaching the world's religions not as dogma but as human creations, and teaching the fundamentals of the Enlightenment, values, and compassionate relationships. Adult Sunday school teaching the world's wisdom literature, the sciences, and philosophy as they apply to our developing toward our full capabilities and growing lifelong toward mental maturity. Social outreach projects in our local society where we enact our UU7 principles. A youth group for teens. Lectures and presentations open to everyone, introducing them to UU, teaching them non-dogmatic spirituality, even teaching them the wisdom of Christianity with non-dogmatic interpretations, and revealing to them the universal and highest values of wisdom and compassion. Quote still, creating such a community, that is what we can do together, that is what UUBC can be. There is no other organization like it, no college, no other church. This is a vision and a possibility. Only you, by taking ownership of that vision, by making it your personal project, can make it real. It will take your presence, your time, and your money, and most importantly, your participation in planning and carrying out our development. I hope that you will join me and others to do just that. End quote. Well, that's an ultimate vision for UUBC that I still like. But it would require an average weekly attendance of about 150. That's at least 3 times our current average attendance. And it would require a monthly income of about $15,000. That's about 7 times our current income. These days, realistically, I foresee our future development as small, manageable, experimental steps to implement the ideas for improvement gathered from each annual World Cafe brainstorming session. In this way, UUBC can gradually develop and improve, staying very close to what its members want their spiritual community to be and to provide them, without overextending our human and financial resources. Our best developmental path is through small steps, always readjusting to internal and external conditions. I think that our future will depend, of course, on the continued involvement of our old guard supporters of UUBC, who created its first 5 years and who sustain its present. But growth and additional progress especially will require the new ideas and added energies of a new guard of UUB supporters as well. Many of you can be in that new guard. You can be new leaders of an ever-growing and ever-improving Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Benton County. I need that, you need that, and Benton County definitely needs that. Amen, and thank you.